have on Britain? Okay, once again, I will say this is really closer to. I would say this is a middle school question. I'll say it's not really a fifth grade question. I will say this is a middle school level question. So if I don't know the exact answer, what can I think about in terms of the historical framework to reason out the right answer? So Britain is an empire. So the British Empire was in Europe, North America, Asia, and I believe Africa, but I'll have to double check on that at this point. I'm not exactly sure if in the 1770s they were in Africa. So, what economic impact did the war have on Britain? So I know that Britain lost the war. That's something else I should walk into the question. So they lost. And what happens when a country or an empire loses a war? They lose. They usually have to hand over land, ports, money, access, although that's a little bit harder to legislate, and they also lose prestige, although you can't really put that in a treaty, but it's well understood that they lose kind of their allure. So, without looking at the answers, I know that British Empire was a transnational empire, transcontinental. They lost, so I can just assume, well, what happens when anyone loses a war? It's not just about what economic impact did the war have on Britain. What does any loss of war have on any country? And from that we can establish a framework to think about this. So it strengthened trade with America. That would be odd because they just revolted with America and they became a new country, therefore severing their long ties of trade, because we know that the colonies were used to help bolster the British economy with the raw materials and manufactured goods. And also the British Empire was profiting off of the slave labor, so it's unlikely that that would be the answer. It gained new colonies in Africa. Well, I don't know how it would do that if the war was fought along New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, the eastern coast of America. It became the richest empire in history. Now, I don't know how they would gain money after losing the war. That, again, is the opposite answer. That's contradictory to what would happen. And B, it lost money and global influence, which is the correct answer. Again, I don't have to know that walking in. I can just establish a general understanding of how countries and empires work. Countries that lose wars, lose land, power, influence, money, and that's your correct answer.